Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to our channel True Courtroom Stories. Today, we're diving into an incredible piece of research from Mr. Zahir Amir's True Courtroom Stories, episode 79. We're going to explore a historic courtroom clash, a real showdown where the will of a powerful ruler went head-to-head with the integrity of the law. This story takes us all the way back to the 15th century Crimean Khanate, but you're about to see just how much it has to say about our world today.
So let's start with the big question that sits at the heart of this whole thing. When power demands loyalty, what's justice supposed to do? You know, when a ruler, a president, anyone with that kind of authority tells you to bend the law for them, what's the right move? This isn't just some philosophical puzzle. It's the very conflict we're about to unpack.
All right, let's set the scene. We're in the 15th century Crimean Khanate. The Khan, he's the guy in charge, with immense power. But, and this is absolutely crucial to the story, the state had a system of independent Islamic courts. This separation of power is the essential backdrop, the very stage where this whole drama is about to play out. And here it is, the spark that lights the fire. A top-ranking advisor, we're talking about a man who's right there next to the Khan, gets accused of murder, a capital crime. Right away, you know the stakes are just through the roof. This isn't just about whether one guy is guilty or not. It's a test of their entire legal system.
So what does the Khan do? Well, his attempt to interfere is shockingly direct. He doesn't even bother with being subtle. He sends a private message to the judge on the case, a man named Qadi Asad. And the message is basically an order. He's my loyal servant. Treat him favorably. In other words, protect my guy. The pressure is officially on.
And this brings us to the moment where everything hangs in the balance. All eyes are on the judge, Qadi Asad. He's got a choice to make, and it's a stark one. Obey the ruler and throw his duty out the window, or honor the law and risk the full force of the Khan's anger. This is one of those moments that really shows you what a person is made of.
Qadi Asad's response? It's legendary. He says, "I am servant of justice, not of men." Wow. With just a few words, he draws a clear line in the sand. He's declaring that his ultimate loyalty isn't to any person, no matter how powerful they are. It's to the principles of the law itself.
So, after that incredible declaration, what happens next? It's one thing to say something brave, but you have to back it up, right? Well, Qadi Asad did exactly that. The focus of the trial immediately shifts from this personal confrontation with the Khan to a careful, impartial, and evidence-based legal process.
And here's the key. The verdict wasn't just pulled out of thin air. It wasn't based on opinion or pressure from either side. It was built on a solid foundation of hard evidence. The prosecution laid it all out. They had eyewitnesses, they presented a forensic analysis of the victim's wounds, and they showed there was a clear motive for the crime. And now for the outcome, which is maybe the most remarkable part of this whole story. The Khan was furious. You can just imagine. His authority had been openly challenged. And yet, he accepted the court's judgment. Why? Because the institution, the judiciary itself, was so respected that even the supreme ruler had to honor its verdict. That just speaks volumes about the strength of their system.
It's a fantastic story, right? But you might be thinking, why does a trial from the 15th century really matter to us today? Well, because the principles that were at stake back then, they're absolutely timeless. They are the very bedrock of what we consider a fair legal system. In this case, it's just a perfect example of those principles in action.
At the heart of it all is this one core concept, judicial independence. What does that mean? It's pretty simple, really. It's the idea that judges have to be free from government and political influence so they can make decisions based purely on the facts and the law. Qadi Asad? He's pretty much the poster child for this ideal.
Now, let's connect the dots directly to our world. That principle Qadi Asad fought for, that a judge's only loyalty is to justice, is the exact same one that's written into modern legal systems. The source material for this explainer specifically points to something called the Rule Against Bias in the UK and similar standards in Pakistan. It just goes to show you how this idea from centuries ago is still a living, breathing part of the law today.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What should we remember from all this? It's that having good laws on the books just isn't enough. For true justice to work, you need two things. You need courageous people like Qadi Asad who are willing to stand up and defend the law, and you need strong systems that are designed to protect those people when they do.
And that really brings us to our final thought. The story of Qadi Asad makes us ask a really fundamental question about our own societies, a question that echoes all the way from the 15th century to right now. If justice has no defenders, what does a society really have left?
It's something to think about. Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and share it with your friends.
From Mr. Zahir Ahmed Mir's research, part of his True Courtroom Stories, episode 79. We're going to explore a question that sits right at the heart of any legal system. So let that sink in for a minute. We all want justice to actually be fair, right? That's a given. But what happens if a decision is totally fair on paper, but to the outside world, it just doesn't look right? That's the real puzzle we're digging in today, the huge difference between justice simply being done and justice being seen to be done. To really get it, we need to rewind the clock a bit. To find the source of this powerful idea, we've got to go back almost 100 years, all the way to Great Britain. It all started with a single court case that at the time might not have seemed like a big deal, but wow, it ended up sending ripples through courtrooms all over the world, even today. Now, what's so fascinating here is that the case wasn't actually about proving that a judge was biased. Not at all. It involved a court clerk. And get this, the clerk's law firm was also representing one of the parties in a totally separate civil case related to the same incident. So the big question wasn't, did the clerk actually whisper in the judge's ear? No, it was about something much, much deeper. And there it is. That's the line that changed everything. The court's ruling was a bombshell. They said that even the tiniest hint, the slightest appearance of possible bias, was enough to throw out the entire case. It's not just about what's actually true, it's about what the public can believe and trust is true. This one sentence became a bedrock principle of modern law. Okay, so that was 1924 in Britain. You might be thinking, what does that have to do with today? Well, it turns out, a whole lot. This isn't just some dusty old rule in a history book. It's a living, breathing standard that's applied in legal systems around the globe, including in Pakistan, where it is taken extremely seriously. In Pakistan's courts, they use something called the real likelihood of bias test. So what does that mean? Well, it sets a really high bar. It means a judge has to step away from a case if there's any situation that a normal, reasonable person might see as a conflict of interest. It doesn't even matter if the judge personally feels 100% impartial. If it looks bad, they're out. And you see this principle being upheld in modern cases all the time. And this right here, this comparison, just spells it out perfectly. On one side, you have actual bias, a judge who is proven to be playing favorites. Obviously, that's wrong. But look at the other side, the perception of bias. The judge might be the fairest person in the world, but if their cousin owns the company involved in the case, the public's trust is just shattered. And that's the key. Actual bias poisons one decision, but the appearance of bias, that can poison the public's trust in the entire system. So all of this leads us to a much deeper, more philosophical question. If a judge has to go to such great lengths to avoid even looking biased, then what is their ultimate loyalty? Who or what are they truly supposed to serve? To figure that out, we have to look at this legal idea called ratio decidendi. I know it's a Latin term, but the meaning is pretty simple. It just means the reason for the decision. It's the pure, logical, legal principle that a judgment has to be built on. And for justice to be seen to be done, that reason has to be crystal clear and completely untouched by personal feelings, money, or outside pressure. And that, right there, is the answer. A judge's one and only loyalty, their primary allegiance, is to the ideal of justice itself. It's not to a political party, not to a powerful friend, and definitely not to any kind of threat or fear. Their entire job is to be a neutral protector of that ideal, and making sure justice looks fair is a massive part of that sacred duty. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. We've been talking a lot about courtrooms and legal rules, but this whole idea has consequences that stretch way, way beyond the courthouse doors. And it leads us to a much bigger and, honestly, a much more chilling conclusion. Just let that one sink in. That is an incredibly powerful statement. A war is loud. It's obvious. You see the destruction. But the slow, silent rot that comes from favoritism, from a system that people feel is rigged, that can be just as deadly to a society. When people lose faith that the system is fair, the very threads that hold a nation together start to come undone. And this entire journey we've been on, from a courtroom in 1924 to the very foundation of society, is all grounded in the incredible research put together by Mr. Zahir Ahmed Mir. Before we wrap up, if you're finding this valuable, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and share it with your friends. It really helps us keep these stories coming. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. We've established that for our courts, justice must be seen to be done. But where else does that apply? Think about it. Our workplaces, our governments, even in our schools. If trust is the glue that holds everything together, we really have to ask ourselves, are we doing enough to make sure fairness isn't just a word, but something everyone can see with their own two eyes?